Hey y'all, welcome to Tuesday Leadership Tips with Lita. Welcome. Come on in, y'all. Come on in on the YouTube platform. Come on in on IG. Come on in on TikTok. Let's get together for a few moments before I have to jump off. Welcome. I'm excited and happy you all are here. All right. All right. Again, welcome to TLT with Lita. It's a great Tuesday, though it's a rainy one here where I am. It's rainy, but it's still a great day. See what's going on over here on YouTube. Give y'all just a moment or so to come on in. All right. All right. So, again, welcome to TLT with Lita. If any of you happen to come across this later, share it with someone who may need today's conversation. So, the tip for today is to shift to make room for more. So, last time we focused on the power of shifting. So, today's leadership tip is go from shifting to making room for more. Shift so you can make room for more. And this is the thing, right? Making the internal and the external adjustments are necessary for growth. Both of them are necessary. When you make the internal shifts, then eventually the shift that happens on the inside is going to show up on the outside. For this particular conversation, we're talking about the next level. And this is when you shift, you create space. It's kind of like, let's look at it in the simplest way I could think of. If you are on a mode of or in a mode of transportation and you shift to one side or you shift down the road, down the seat, you make room, you create space. And when you create space, you make room for more. And that space must be managed intentionally. You got to manage it intentionally. Um, this is what I know as leaders, we often make the shift, like we talked about last week, but we fail to make room. Make room for new ideas, make room for aligned partnerships, make room for deeper purpose, make room for higher capacity. I can just say personally that there are some things as I have been shifting, there are some things I don't have the capacity for anymore that I had capacity for in times past. But I've learned that in not having capacity for certain things that I used to have capacity for before didn't just leave me void, it created space for new capacities, for higher capacity. And whenever you're making room, you want to make sure you use that room, that space that you created very intentionally. Just don't let anything fill the space. Be intentional about the room that you make. You can't receive what's next while you're still full of what's old. And so that means that as you have shifted and as you are making room, you're being called to prepare the space that particular success requires. If you are moving to a different place or you're moving to a space where you are succeeding in the area where you have set goals, where you have vision, you're going to have to make sure that that space is prepared for whatever success you require, whatever success you're reaching for, your goal is for. So if you've made a shift, now what? That's what this conversation today is about. If you made the shift that we talked about last week, now what? Now what? Because this is what I know. Growth doesn't just come because you change direction. It comes because you made room for more. So this is my question to you today. Couple of questions, actually. The first question is, what's one thing that you have let go of lately to make room for what's next? What's one thing you let go of? And if you want to put it in the chat, you can. Uh, but this is for you to answer this question to yourself. Remember, I said last week, you got to be accountable to you. You got to be real with you. You got to be honest with yourself. So, what's one thing that you let go of lately that you made room for what's next? And then, are you currently in a shifting season or are you in a making room season? They're not the same. If you're in a shifting season, that's separate and distinct from a making room season. The shift has to happen first, and then you make room. Shifting, as we talked about last week, is an internal movement. That means your mindset, your habits, your direction. That's the internal movement that happens. Last week, I talked about how I was at one time in my life really focusing on the image more than I was on my authenticity. And if you have ever dealt with that type of internal conflict, it's uncomfortable maintaining an image when your authentic self is ready to come forth. It's very, very difficult. It is in complete conflict. And so the changes that I shared last week that happened within me begin eventually to show outwardly because that was my goal for the way that I was shifting inside would show up on the outside. Now, as we're talking about making room is an external adjustment. How you structure your time, your energy, and your relationships to support the new direction that you're going in. That's what the external adjustment involves. You have to figure out how to wisely utilize your time. And as I was sharing earlier, there are some things I don't have the capacity for anymore. I can't expend energy just everywhere. I am very strategic about my energy. It's expensive. I hope y'all are listening to what I'm saying. I'm trying to tell you that your energy is expensive. It's not something you spend all over the place. Be very intentional about it. Be strategic about it. even in relationships. There are some relationships that you can't, let me put it this way, make sure that the relationships that you pour into and that are pouring into you are adding value. So, this is what I want to say in a nutshell: shifts without space leads to strain. If you shift without making room for what's next, it's just leading to strain. For example, you can't shift into visionary leadership but still fill your calendar with reactive tasks. If you really want to shift into that visionary leadership, you're going to have to make sure your calendar matches your goals that are leading to the vision that you have. Don't just fill your calendar with busy work. Don't just fill your calendar just to say it's full. Sometimes you need blank space so you can sit and strategize so that you can come up with the plan of action for your next move. This is the thing, right? Sometimes we as leaders stay stuck after the shift. We shifted, we know we shifted, we're ready for what's next, but we get stuck. Sometimes we mentally shift, but we stay physically cluttered. That's why it's important that your calendar marries up with your priorities, that it is in alignment with the vision that you have. You can't say yes to what no longer fits. If it doesn't fit in the season that you're making room, or that you have prayed for, or that you are hoping for, you can't say yes to the thing that no longer fits. You're going to have to say no to it. You're going to have to choose your priorities that are leading to the vision that you have. You can't want to expand but still cling to what's comfortable. They won't coexist. If you want to expand, you're going to have to come out of comfort. It's nice to be able to say, um, that you want to expand your business, expand your brand, expand whatever you're doing. But if you're clinging to comfort, I can guarantee you're not going to be able to expand to the capacity that you want to or that you need to. So, with that being said, if you really want to step into more, if you really want to make room for more, you're going to have to let go of the thing that's still holding you from what was meant for your next level or your next move or your next space that you're creating. You can't step into more while you're still holding what was meant for before. That's another thing. Sometimes we may have had a good idea, but the idea doesn't fit in this space where you're making room. If the idea doesn't fit, if the strategy, if the tool, if the system doesn't fit, if it only works for what you were doing before, then you can't still hold on to it. Not if you really want to make room. If you really want to make room, you're going to have to step away from what was meant for before and walk into what is next. So let me give you 3 ways to make room for more. 3 ways. Number 1, release what no longer fits. Let's let's look at it this way. Let go of your habits let go of unfruitful relationships, let go of systems that limit your capacity because you want to make room for more capacity with what's next, not with what was before. And ask yourself, does this still serve where I'm going or just where I've been? And be honest with yourself. If it's only serving what you're stepping away from, then it can't serve well in where you're trying to go to. For example, saying no to opportunities that don't align with your current mission. If it doesn't align with your current mission, then you're going to have to move away from it. You're going to have to move away from it. Because listen to this. When you begin to release what no longer fits, you're making room. That's your first thing you got to do is release what no longer fits. Number two, redefine what more means. Because what more means to me may not mean the same thing to you. More in your season may look completely different than your best friend's season of more. So you got to define more for where you are and where you're trying to go. More doesn't always mean doing more. Sometimes it means being more focused, more aligned, and more intentional. I don't want anybody to make this more difficult than it ought to be. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. It doesn't always mean that you got to run at the pace that someone else is running at, because at any time they could be slower or they could be faster. You got to run at your pace. You got to run your race. You got to make room for more in your life, in your business, in what you're trying to do, not in what someone else is trying to do. And I have to say this because social media can sometimes get people running and doing things because they see someone else doing it, or they see someone else who looks like they're doing it better and doing it faster. And what you have to really home in on is, where am I? What am I trying to do? And what does more look like for me? And when you focus in on what you're trying to do, you will eliminate the distractions of trying to keep up with what someone else is doing. This is real talk today. Don't get distracted trying to compare yourself to someone else or trying to keep up with someone else. It won't be fruitful for you making room for more. And so, growth sometimes it requires pruning, not just planting. Oh, I hope y'all listening to me today. It's not always cutting away, but sometimes, it's not always planting, but it's sometimes you're cutting away, you're pruning. Like, just think of a natural thing, a fruit tree or a plant or a flower. Sometimes to make it grow better or grow back more fruitful is to cut away some stuff. So it's not just planting to make room for more, but also pruning. You're making room. Expansion starts with elimination. Oh, sometimes expansion starts with elimination, y'all, because you are making room for more. So, again, number one was release what no longer fits. Number two, Redefine what more means to you. And number three, ready yourself for the next level. This is what I know. This is a biblical principle, a kingdom principle that I know to be true, and I want to share with you. And that principle is preparation precedes manifestation. If you want something to be blessed or become fruitful or to be more, you're going to have preparation. Preparation precedes manifestation. I know this to be true as well. God blesses those who have been prepared for what they've been praying for. You have prepared yourself for the next level. Prepare mentally, prepare emotionally, because sometimes more can be very stressful. More doesn't mean easy. I like the way Dr. Darius Daniel says it like this. He says, more of anything is more of everything. So more of one thing means more of something else. So it doesn't mean because you have more that it's going to be less stressful, that it's going to be easy street. No, it more of anything means more of everything. So you may have some things that you will need to be mentally prepared for, emotionally prepared for, to sustain what's coming. Increase your structure. Anytime that you want to feel something, any vessel, it could be a building, it could be a vehicle, anything that you want to feel that structure, you have to prepare it to make sure that it can handle the weight of what's getting ready to be put into it. So increase your structure, increase your boundaries. Everybody won't have free access like they used to. Not if you've created room for more. That means you don't have space for extra. Meaning the things that you are making room for you're making room for that space to be filled, which means that you're going to have to tighten up your boundaries. You're going to have to make sure you have the right systems to hold the new capacity, whatever your systems are that you've created to make sure your business goes well, your relationships go well, your life goes well, whether you're working in another company and you've been promoted. You got to make sure whatever systems that you have in place that they can hold the new capacity. And I'll give you an example. When you're building leadership teams, when you're building these teams are there, and they're not there just for you to say you have teams, but these teams will help you utilize and make the best use of systems, if not helping you create the system. And then delegating, that's another example. You got to make sure that you have the right people in place to handle what you're delegating. Make sure your structure is right, your boundaries are right, your systems are in place. And then also, one last thing example is when you have automating repetitive work, you want to make sure, again, the structure's good, boundaries are good, systems can handle this automated work. So again, if you're going to make room, if you're in the season of making room, if you're in the season of making room for more, release what no longer fits, redefine what more means to you, And then three, ready yourself for the next level. Get ready for it. If you know it, you sense it, you're moving towards it, the shift has happened. Now you're ready to make room. If you know that you're doing it, get yourself ready for the next level. Prepare yourself mentally, emotionally. Make sure you can sustain what's coming. And so as we get ready to bring this one to a close, I want to challenge you as leaders. I want to challenge you to name one area that you need to clear space in it. One area, just one. I know many of us may have 5 or 10 or 20 different areas, being honest about it. But name one area that you need to clear some space in it. It could be your calendar, it could be your mindset, it could be your circle. Just one thing that you need to make room for more. And I want to encourage you to look at that one area this week. Apply these 3 ways to make room for more to it. And then come back. Let me know. Send me a DM. Put it in the chat of this. The live will be on IG for those of you who are on YouTube and on TikTok. Now you can also go and put in the comments on YouTube as well. But let me know. Share with us how it's going, how these 3 ways of making room made a difference for your life, made a difference in your business, made a difference in your relationships. Come back and share it with us and hashtag lead with Lita. All right, y'all. So I want to leave you with this closing thought. You've shifted, but now it's time to make room. Don't let the next season find you cluttered from the last one. I want to say that again. Don't let your next season find you cluttered from the last one. Clear the space. Expand the vision. We talked about last time stretching. Because when you make room for more, more will come. All right, y'all. That's our live for today. And as I always ask, if you're on TikTok and you can go to my IG page, share this with a leader who needs this conversation. Share this with your teams. Share this with someone who needs to talk about making room for more. And I look forward to the next time. All right, y'all. Peace.